two things I can always plead, right? One, I'll be dead by 2050, so it won't matter to me. And second, as a historian, I always look back rather than forward. But those aren't fair excuses for this. I think that unless the countries of Europe figure out an accommodation with these populations, it's going to be disastrous. It's going to be increasing numbers of riots, increasing divisions, not only along economic lines, but along religious and ethnic lines, and it will be a disaster. I mean, I think for me, the most interesting thing I've seen, and it's not a perfect document, was the Bouchard-Taylor report that came out of Quebec. Do you know about this? It's a report, Charles Taylor, the philosopher, and Gérard Bouchard, I can't remember what he does, were asked to write a report about the accommodation of Muslims in Quebec. And there it was a particularly hot issue because Quebec is secular, although there's a large Catholic population that wants to press very hard for control or political influence in certain ways. And they came up with a report about what accommodation and where to draw the lines and what mattered and what didn't matter. And I thought it was the most sensible document I'd seen in a really long time, because it requires adherence to the political principles of the nation and of the region, democratic ones, Republican ones, at the same time that it's pluralist in its tolerance, and tolerance is a wrong word, because as one of my friends keeps saying, tolerance means that you abide by something you don't really like. I think recognition is the better term. So you recognize that there are certain kinds of practices that need to be respected on the part of Muslim populations, praying 5 times a day for those who do, places where you can wash your feet and your hands before you pray. On the other hand, you say, we draw the line here. If you're in a hospital and the only doctor on is a male doctor and you're a woman, you take it, which in fact many of the interpreters of the Quran will tell you is already there to be, or of hadiths that come out of the Quran, is already understood to be a practice, and so on. But so, here are the lines. Here's what constitutes respect and recognition. Here's what constitutes the limit that can be placed on the kinds of demands that can be made of a more general public and of a more multicultural public. You can't impose your will, your truth on all of us. So it seems to me that that's the kind of accommodation, that's the kind of policy that has to be developed. Whether or not it will is another question. There's also a group of feminists in France who are Muslim feminists who wear the hijab, and French feminists, that is, we would call them white, but French, Français de souche, they call native French. I mean, all of these terms are loaded, and it's very difficult to use them. But okay, so they're secular French women and headscarf Muslim French women. And they came up with a statement of principle, which seems to me to offer some of the answers. And it is, we are for equality in all realms. We are against the subordination of any groups or individuals. No forced wearing of headscarves, no forced removal of headscarves. And that seems to me to sort of be pointing towards the kinds of accommodation that Bouchard-Taylor offered in Quebec, and that needs to be really addressed and thought through, not only in France, but in the countries of Europe. I think if they don't do it, one doesn't even want to think about what the future, the difficulties, the tensions, the humiliations, the riots. Think of the 2005 riots. I mean, I think more and more of that will be the case unless there's some really serious effort to pick up some of these suggestions that have been made and work with them.